Okay, you come through to this Big Tom bonus video of the reverse parallel park, and in this video we're going to be looking specifically at the position of the vehicle as you do the parallel park. Um, this bonus video here is really answering some of the questions that have been asked in the main video about, well, how do I do it? How do I do it? Which is a fair enough question. And what this demonstrates in this session here, this is an actual example, an actual session that was done today with a pupil called Caris, and so this is sort of real life stuff. But I'm just going to oh, there you go. There's Caris, and I'm just going to talk you through what's going on here. So initially you're getting positioned to the side of the vehicle that you're going to do the parallel park. You don't want to be too close to that vehicle. If you get too close to it, then it makes it very difficult. But you then reverse back to what we call the point of turn, which is just when you're level with the rear of the vehicle. So in other words, you're side by side completely. And then once you're side by side, you then steer. As you can see, Caris is steering to the left. You steer an amount of steering, and then you take that steering off to then go back in a straight line. Can you see that? And you go back in a straight reversing until the last little bit is what's commonly called closing the door, which is where you steer the other way. So let's just show that again here. Look, so this is resetting to the start again. Pulling up just advanced of the vehicle, the parked vehicle. By that I mean, you know, roughly speaking, your left side mirror is at the front of the vehicle, level with the front of the vehicle that you can do the parallel park. You stick it into reverse, and then the pace of the vehicle is really important to control with the clutch. If you do too high on the clutch, the biting point is too high and you lose control of the pace, and inevitably your eyes and your hands can't then keep up with the manoeuvre. So she's done the left steer there. Now she's now reset to straight reversing, and now she's doing the right steer, what we call closing the door. Very that last bit there, the steering to the right, closing the door, is when you're coming up alongside the curb again. So you're now behind the parked car. That's very sort of counterintuitive, that steering to the right. I've sort of observed that over many years, that doesn't come naturally to very many people at all. So let me just talk you through it just once again. Putting up alongside the vehicle, get the wheel straight like Caris just did there, so that you are straight reversing, so that your car is level with the other car. You then steering to the left. How much steering you put on is up to you. She's putting full lock on, and she takes a turn and a half off. Turn and a half is full lock, you see. So now we're going back in a straight line, or she's going back in a straight line, and very slowly, you notice, and then you close the door. When you get relatively close to the curb, you close the door. If you close the door, if you do that right steer too soon, then you'll be too far away from the curb, and if you do it too late, then you will hit the curb. So the timing, look at the variables in this manoeuvre. The variables are the pace at which you go back, and that's controlled by the clutch. The other variable is the amount of steer that you do. See that? The amount of steer she does, and the timing of the steering. Because if you start to steer too soon, then that makes it unnecessarily difficult. That's why we get level with the back of the car. But different ways of actually describing this, and I would encourage, what Caris is doing here is she's just experimenting basically. She's using, this video is about 10 minutes long, so this session that she's doing here, she's just literally experimenting with different ways of doing this and working out ways that she can discover when she needs to do what steering. So I'm not saying to her that she has to do a certain amount of steering, and I'm not saying to her specifically, like for example, you do hear of pupils who've been with other people, other instructors. Oh, I've got to do one turn here, I've got to do one turn there. Well, the idea with what Caris is doing here is she's just experimenting, because everybody's different with regards to spatial awareness and knowing what they've got to do and which way they've got to steer. So let's go over it again. We get back, we get level with the car, with the vehicle that we're going to do the parallel park. Pause. In this case, she's doing full lock. That's a turn and a half to the left. She's looking to her left, and when she can see the back of that car, she then takes that turn and a half off. And now she's going back in a straight line very, very slowly. And now she's doing full lock to the right to close the door to come in behind the vehicle again. So, you know, rewind that last 30 seconds, and that's how Caris is practicing this one. And she's experimenting with when does she steer, how much steering does she put on, and controlling the pace of the car. Because if you don't control the pace of the car, it's very difficult. You'll get very sporadic, very unpredictable results here. So the clutch control with the left foot is really, really important. If you bring the left foot up too high, you lose control of the pace and everything else goes by the wayside. By the way, I should stress that I'm doing the observations with regards to safety while Caris is just experimenting here. The idea with this is what she's doing is trying to find a technique that actually works for her personally, not works for me. That's not what we're doing here. This is something that works for her personally, and because if she can suss out how to do this, then she will be more willing, more prepared, and more likely to do the same technique when she's passed her driving test, and because she's got a system, a technique by which she knows it is reliable and consistent. So that's the whole idea behind this. One of the questions that comes out often when people are doing this manoeuvre is, well, how do I manage to not hit the car, the parked car? How do I manage to not go up the curb? How do I control all of that? And that comes down to what some people use is reference points. In other words, they see something in particular. Let me talk you through this one that she's doing here, and let's see if we can. First of all, when you're pulling up alongside the other vehicle, you've got to be parallel to it, to the curb, and your steering wheel should be straight, so that your front wheels are straight. You always need to start off at the same position, parallel to the curb, and with your wheels straight. And then when you're reversing, you should be reversing back in a straight line with no steering going on at all. So she's just corrected that. So now she's going back in a straight line. Then there's the steering to the left again. Now she's looking for the back of the vehicle that she's doing the parallel park on. When she can see the back of that vehicle, she's going to take off that steering that she's just put on. In her case, it's a turn and a half. Now she's going back in a straight line, very, very slowly, and she's working out, when do I know when to steer the other way? And there can be a reference point for that as well, you know. Depending on the vehicle you're driving, it can be a different reference point, and it's just worth experimenting, having a very open mind and a very a willingness just to look at this and consider, well, what works for me and how can I do it so that I'll remember it, because ultimately that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? We're trying to find a technique that Caris is going to remember in the stress of a driving test, as well as in the stress of real life driving, when you've got vehicles near you and all the drivers are looking at you while you do this parallel park. You need to have a strategy, a technique which is reliable and is consistently good, so that you know, confidence, you know that it works for you and it's repeatable. And that's what she is trying to identify here. Here we go, going back. There's the full lock on. She puts full lock on there. That's opening the door. She waits then until she can see the back of the vehicle that she's doing the parallel park on. When she sees the back of it, she takes that steering off. That's a turn and a half. She's going back in a straight line. And now she's working out, what's my reference for knowing when to then do that last bit of steering there. And she's working out, what can I see that works reliably, consistently, so that I then come back in again nicely back into where the car is. That's a really nice, that was a really, really nice manoeuvre, wasn't it? And the beauty with this is that if she just keeps on practicing like this, she will discover a way by which she gets near consistently to the same distance of the parked car in front. Can you see the red car in front there? And so that's really, really handy to know that, because let's face it, in real life, you are doing a parallel park, reverse parallel park between two parked cars, aren't you, in real life? And so consequently, although the driving test has got two car lengths leeway, you know, as long as you finish up within two car lengths, in real life we don't necessarily have that flexibility. And so it's finding a system, so finding a technique that she can use for real life driving. That's the key thing with this, and that's what she's identifying now. She's just questioning, how can I how do I know what distance I am from the vehicle there? And this is it, and this is exactly what I'd encourage you to do, is to experiment, have an open mind with this, and try and find something that works for you, because that's the key thing, rather than just relying on what the driving instructor tells you to do. You know, because let's face it, sometimes we don't like what the driving instructor the technique is that they're telling us. Might work for the instructor, but not necessarily for the pupil. So there we are. That's a summary of this, just a little bonus video there, just to sort of give you a bit of a clue about the position, concentrating on the position. While she was working hard there, I was doing the observations to make sure that things were kept safe, and then she will then incorporate into this technique the observations, the necessary observations, to make sure that while she's doing what she's doing, this technique, it's also safe as well. But let's concentrate one thing at a time, get the pace sorted out, look at the amount of steering to do and the timing of the steering, and discover a technique by which she can get a consistent, reliable result every single time that she does it. I hope that helps. If you do have any questions at all about any aspect of this, drop it down in the comment section down below, and I will be very happy to assist. Okay, I'll answer any questions that you might have. Okay, thanks very much.